Hey, this is Derek. It's just after midnight, and I had to make this video for you. What can you do when you encounter opposition? I'm gonna get just very, very real with you right here. The last day, maybe day and a half, I've encountered some of the fiercest opposition that I have encountered in my life. And have you ever noticed that opposition loves to kind of all come all at once? So what can you do about it? Like, why does that happen? What can you do to get through that opposition? Thankfully, there are patterns when it comes to opposition. And so I wanted to just take a quick few minutes here before I go to bed to share with you some of the thoughts and feelings that have been going through my mind. Oliver DeMille wrote the book The Student Whisperer. It's an amazing, amazing book. I highly, highly recommend it. And in that book, he illustrates a path, a pattern, if you will. I believe he calls it the path to learning or something along those lines. We call it the success cycle, but it's based upon Oliver DeMille's work, and it's broken down into 9 different phases. Anytime you set out to achieve something, whether that's your in your business, whether that's financially, whether that's in your marriage, your family, with your weight reduction, whatever it is, success tends to come in cycles, and it tends to follow the following 9 phases. Phase one is what's called the call. And that's when you kind of feel your heart pumping and you feel impressed to take your life to the next level. Maybe you're sitting in church and you hear the speaker talk about something that you feel you could be doing better. Maybe the speaker is talking about reading sacred texts more often, and secretly your heart starts thumping, and you're like, okay, yeah, I need to do that a little bit better. Or maybe you go to a seminar and you are inspired by the trainer who talks about his or her journey from poverty to wealth, or maybe you see someone's weight transformation, and just you have that feeling inside your heart that you need to do something greater. You need to do something to take your life to that next level. That's what we call the call. And what the action step to do when it comes to the call is to do just that. It's to take action. It's to answer the call. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. A lot of people will feel impressed to do something and they freeze because of fear. They freeze because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. Have you ever experienced that before? Have you ever had that stirring in your heart, like, okay, you need to do this. You need to invest in this mentoring program. You need to start this weight reduction program. You need to go hire this personal trainer. And it's like, yeah, I know this is right for me, but I'm not going to do it because it's scary, right? Have you ever noticed that when it comes to world-changing inventions, like life-changing inventions like the printing press or the telephone or the automobile, or just things that like literally change the world, that a lot of people claim to have received the idea for that, but only one person usually gets credit. And the reason why is because I like to imagine that there's an inspiration department in the sky, and this inspiration department knows that certain ideas need to be implemented so that the world can change and progress. And so they send this idea to a whole bunch of people. I like to imagine inspiration like on this certain like radio frequency. I'm weird, I know. And a lot of people are tuned in to that frequency. Unfortunately, very few people actually act on it. And they send this inspiration to all these different people. They send the call to a whole bunch of people because they know that at least one person's going to act on it. And so when you receive that call, when you feel impressed to do something differently, you've got to act immediately. If you don't, have you ever experienced this where you get this amazing idea and then you don't write it down or you don't take action on it, and then like the next day the idea is gone? You're like, darn it, that was such a good idea. Oh, darn it, I wish I'd written it down. And it's gone. It's because that call was actually passed on to someone else who was going to take better action, who's actually going to be a better steward over that inspiration and implement it. So let's say you've implemented the call and you took action and you've started that business. And phase two is what we call the honeymoon phase. And this is after you've answered the call again, and you're on cloud nine because you're like, oh my gosh, I am so excited now. I am finally gonna take my life to the next level, and I feel amazing. And you get that dopamine burst, that burst of endorphins in your mind, and it just feels like you're riding this amazing wave. Think of if you're married, think of like the literal honeymoon. Usually when newly married couples go on their honeymoon, it's a great time, right? Because they've answered the call, they got married, they took action, and now they are kind of reaping that emotional and mental reward for it. The important thing about the honeymoon phase is generating as much momentum as you possibly can. So getting as much work done during the honeymoon phase to propel you forward so that you can withstand phase three. Now, unfortunately, the honeymoon phase eventually wears off, right? Phase two is just one of the 9 phases. And unfortunately, a lot of people quit once the honeymoon phase wears off, and we see this in business. How many of you know like that one network marketing, that one friend that like every single month has a new network marketing business that they've signed up for, right? Or that new business idea, or that new diet plan, or some people will literally jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, and once the honeymoon phase has worn off, they call it quits. Eventually, the honeymoon wears off, and eventually, phase three happens, which is opposition. This year, we've been kind of riding a honeymoon phase because we have set some pretty dang lofty goals for ourselves. With our company, with our bodies, with our fulfillment, with just a lot of the different things that we want to achieve in 2020. And we've been kind of riding a wave of the honeymoon phase. And just today, we realized, oh, we just reached phase three, which is opposition. And that's when things start to go wrong. That's when your brain starts to give you those doubts. Sometimes the honeymoon phase doesn't last very long. Sometimes it lasts minutes. In fact, a lot of times when people sign up for my absolute top-level mentoring programs, I tell them point blank, by the way, you're going to be experiencing, a honeymoon phase, but eventually your brain is going to start playing tricks on you. Your brain is going to start putting up doubts and fears, and you're going to have every reason why you want to call it quits before you've even begun this program. And the thing about opposition, the way to get through it is 2 words. Number 1 is determination. Number 2 is commitment. When you have made that solemn commitment, not only to yourself, but to other people that you are here to serve, that's what helps you to get through that opposition. Remembering your why. Why did you begin this in the first place? Why did you want to take your life to the next level? What type of rewards can you expect? How will life be different? How many people are you here to serve? How amazing is life going to be once you reach that the next level? Does that make sense? Because, as I mentioned, opposition is going to happen, and this could be physical opposition, this could be mental or opposition, it could be emotional opposition, it could be that you release 30 pounds and suddenly you uncover this negative emotion that you've covered up with body fat that you couldn't remember was even there. It could be that. It could be you rub someone the wrong way. It could be people spread rumors about you. It could be that people say, "Oh, you'll never do that. That you're too stupid. You're too whatever. That'll never ever work." Those well-meaning family members. Do you have some of those that love to help you to get into phase 3? Very considerate of them, right? But again, that's how you get through phase 3. Phase 4 is what we lovingly call the chasm. And that's when you come up against some type of obstacle or problem or something that you had no clue you were going to have to encounter. It's like, whoa, where did this come from? I didn't sign up for this. Like, no one ever told me I was going to have to experience this. I was going to have to go through this. No one ever told me after I started a business that there would be someone that would try to issue an illegal chargeback or do something immoral or unethical or whatever it is. And it's going to throw you through kind of for a loop because again it's some type of challenge or obstacle that you have never encountered before, and you won't know how to get through it. The way to get through phase 4 is by following a mentor. And so you find someone that is where you want to be, that has the results and has achieved results that you want to achieve. And you work with that mentor, you learn from that mentor, you implement what that mentor teaches you to do. And yeah, some mentors will charge good money for their time because that's what they're giving you. And a lot of people say, well, wait a second, mentors are expensive. Yeah, but ignorance is a lot more expensive. Does that make sense? A lot of people say, well, I just got to buckle down and I got to figure things out. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is if you have never been to this level up here, then you can't figure it out. You don't have the logic to get there because you've never been there. Unless you've been to that new level, you don't currently have the logic to get to that new level. And so the fastest way to get to that new level, to get through phase 4, is by hiring a mentor and following the advice of that person that has been where you want to be. Now, phase 5 is what's called is work. That's what it's called. Phase 5 is the work phase. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, I've hired that mentor. How come that in and of itself didn't change my life? I purchased that program. I started that business. How come things aren't totally different? And what they don't realize is that the simple act of hiring a mentor or going to a seminar or getting a book, reading a book, cannot change your life if you don't actually put in the work, if you don't actually do what you're supposed to do, what you learned how to do. Does that make sense? A lot of people settle for phase 1 of change, which is learning, knowing. How many people do you know that they've read every single book on weight loss and yet they don't do anything with it? And so they're still 50 pounds overweight or whatever it is. They're like, well, I've read all those books and nothing's changed in my life. Well, duh, it's because you haven't done anything with what you learned, right? The next level above learning is doing. If you aren't doing, if you aren't putting in the work, then of course things aren't going to change. It sounds like common sense, but unfortunately for a lot of people it isn't. You've got to put in the work. You've got to actually implement those different things that mentor is teaching you. Otherwise, hiring a mentor isn't going to do any good. Otherwise, going to that course, reading that book is going to do you zero good. It doesn't help anyone to learn something if you're not going to actually change your behavior and implement and do what it is that you learn. Now, phase 6 is called the endurance phase. And this is when you're doing the work and you're like, okay, I'm putting in the work, now where's my reward? Like, okay, I'm doing what this mentor told me to do. I'm working hard. I'm doing this. Now, why isn't this happening for me? I remember asking myself this question over and over and over again during all the years that I struggled with my weight. I was working with mentors. I was reading the books. I was going to the gym. I was putting in the time, and yet I wasn't seeing any permanent weight reduction. And what I came to find out is something called the law of gestation. Now, when most people think of gestation, they think of babies and birth. Just the mention of babies, and my wife starts to giggle. She loves babies, and she loves being pregnant. She's the only person that I've ever met that literally loves every second of being pregnant, and she actually loves the process of giving birth. I know, she's crazy, right? But we have 5 kids now, and she wants like 1 billion more. Holy moly. She's fun. But the law of gestation says that each of us has a gestation period for the different areas of our life. And just like there are different gestational periods in the animal kingdom, for example, a baby field mouse or a mama field mouse can get pregnant and gestate a fully developed baby field mouse in 19 days. Holy moly, right? Whereas a mama elephant takes 645 days to gestate a new elephant. Very, very different gestation periods. And it's the same thing with different parts of our life. There are some people that their gestation period for certain areas of their life are very, very quick. And other areas of their life take a lot longer. For some people, their health and fitness gestation period tends to be very quick, whereas their wealth gestation period takes a lot longer. For myself, it was the exact opposite. We grew our income, we grew our wealth very, very quickly. Our wealth gestation period, for whatever reason, was very, very short, whereas my fitness gestation period was quite long, and it took me years and years before I noticed any real difference. The way to get through the endurance phase is, again, following the advice of those mentors and making sure that you are utilizing visualization tools. Visualization tools such as a vision board, going and seeing a best practitioner. That can be super, super helpful because it literally can align your subconscious mind to the conscious mind. If you want more information about that, shoot me a message or a comment below and I'll send you more information about that. I know it sounds weird if you've never heard of that before, but it works. The way to get through it, as I mentioned, is simply recognizing that every person has a different gestation period. And what not to do is you do not want to compare your gestation period, your results with anybody else's, because that's not fair to you, it's not fair to them, it's not fair to anyone. Now, phase 7 is the most difficult phase to go through. It can seem really, really daunting, especially, just hearing it. Phase 7 is called the ultimate test. The ultimate test is a period of time in which you feel like everything is going wrong. It feels like the very gates of hell are open up to try to stop you. It will seem like you are about to lose everything, and some people actually literally lose everything during their ultimate test. I remember my ultimate test came, and just getting very frank, it was the first time in my life I ever prayed for my life to be ended, because that's how difficult it was. It's hard for me to even talk about without getting emotional. I won't go too much in depth about that, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't even start because they don't want to go through the ultimate test. And a lot of people give up during this phase because the ultimate test is the ultimate filter. It weeds out those that weren't totally serious about getting to the next level in the first place. Thankfully, phase 8 is the reward. Phase 8 is once you've gotten through the ultimate test, it's like getting to the eye of the storm. And that's when the pressure lets off. That's when things finally fall into place, and that's when the reward comes, and that's when you finally are like, oh my gosh, thank heavens. That's when you realize you've achieved what you set out to achieve, and it feels really good. And again, unfortunately, most people quit just before the reward comes. One of the old sayings is that the night is always darkest just before dawn, and it's the same thing. Another one of our mentoring cliches is, the storm is always the craziest, the opposition is always the toughest, just before the peace comes. And phase 8, as I mentioned, is the reward phase. And phase 9 is receiving a call to go to up another level. And so, yeah, sometimes opposition can be really, really tough. Let's be real. Sometimes it can feel like things aren't even going to be worth it, and so why bother trying? Again, this is where a lot of people will just stop. They'll be going through the honeymoon phase, and things feel like they're on cloud 9, and things are moving along. maybe they start that new exercise program or that new nutrition program, and they see those first few pounds coming off, and they're going, yes, this is great. They're riding that wave of momentum, and then they hit that first plateau, and then they get those, stress cravings, and they binge eat, and they backtrack a few pounds, and so they stop, and they say, this isn't worth it anymore, and so they stop. Regardless of what kind of journey you're on, please get through the opposition. Please do so by being kind to one another. Please be determined. If you're in my Enjoy Yourself Thin program doing one of our 12-week challenges, keep in mind the ultimate prize. Keep in mind your why. That's what's going to help you to get through the opposition. Attaching yourself to a mentor is one of the fastest ways and most effective ways to get through that opposition. Doesn't mean excuse me, nice yawn there. It doesn't mean that you're never going to go through the opposition, but it can mean that you can shorten the opposition period. And so, again, if you're going through opposition, you can get through it. You will get through it. If you've listened to this whole thing, major kudos to you. I've got a reward for you for doing so. And so I actually have an audio CD or a digital download called In the Face of Opposition. And this is where I share the opposition. It was actually during my ultimate test. I was going through my ultimate test, fiercest opposition I'd ever gone through, and I felt impressed just to grab a recording device and just record some of the thoughts and impressions that were going through my mind and some of the lessons that I was learning as I was getting through that opposition. And I've sent it to people all over the world now, and I've received messages from people that have listened to that and that it's helped and that it's inspired. And so if you'd like a free copy of In the Face of Opposition, or I actually have a full audio training called The Success Cycle, in which I actually go through what I just mentioned here just in a lot more in depth. And so if you want some more in-depth training on the Success Cycle, I'll make that available to you at no charge as well. Simply comment below that you'd like a copy of one or both of those, or send me a private message on Facebook, or send me an email, eric@feelwelllivewell.com, subject heading In the Face of Opposition or The Success Cycle, and just let me know you've watched this video and you'd like a free copy, and that can be my gift to you to help you to get through that. You can get through opposition. Remember, if you haven't joined our Enjoy Yourself Thin group already, make sure to do so, totally free, and please accept those gifts from me to you to help you get through the opposition. And please know that you're loved. Please know that you're not alone. And so, thanks again for watching. Love you.